Look at all this embedded gunk that's coming out of here. Look at all this brown, orangey looking stuff that's just getting pulled out of the paint. It's crazy. Gonna wash this car, gonna do it all right, it's Lexus. Lexus is the best. What's up, guys? Today I'm gonna show you how to clay a filthy car, but first I gotta wash it. See you on the other side. Ooh, look at all that. That is just filthy. So how do you tell if your car needs a clay job? Well, basically, you can tell on this one just by looking at it. You see all these flecks of yellow and little splotches everywhere. The paint's supposed to look white, but it looks kind of off-white. It's just dulled. So if your paint looks dulled, you definitely need a clay bar. What is contamination? Well, it's debris, it's dust, it's fallout from the sky that basically comes out and embeds itself into your paint. So if you touch your paint, it should feel as smooth as glass, but I'll unclip this mic and you'll be able to feel and hear. You won't be able to feel. I'll be able to feel. You'll be able to hear how this sounds. That is me gently gliding over the paint. That is awful. You do not want that sound. So if you hear that sound on your paint, and by the way, don't do that at home because you will scratch the paint, which I probably just did, but we're gonna fix that later too with a polish. That's how you know that you definitely need a clay job. So what you wanna do first before you start this is actually wash the car, because we wanna get rid of any loose dirt, grime, and debris that's basically on here first, and then we're gonna go and clay the car. So I'm gonna time lapse that part, and I'll see you in the bay for how to clay. So we washed the car, but even though we cleaned it, there's still a lot of contamination on here. You can see the little droplets of pollen on here, little bee poops, and I'm gonna pull my mic out one more time. It still sounds awful. So we're gonna go and clay this. That's the only way to get the contamination out of the pores of the paint. I also noticed a little bit of sap on here. So if you want to come close, this is probably dried up sap. At one point this looked like it was normal sap, but it's dried up. You do not want to let this dry like this, because this 100% has already ruined the paint. We can take the yellow pieces out and get that out, and I'll show you a really cool trick on how to do that if you stick to the end of the video. But unfortunately, it's going to leave a mark on there, so we'll have to repaint it on those sections. However, let's get into the clay video right now. All right, so we have washed the car and now it is time to clay. What do you need to clay? Only 3 things, baby birds. You need clay luber, you need clay, and not all this clay, we just need one of these, and some towels. That's it. So why do I have 3 of these? Well, we basically have clay that comes in 4 different ones. We've got our light duty, our OG original, our medium duty, and then we also have a heavy duty clay bar, not pictured. The difference in these is the amount of stickiness of these. So you can assume that this has very light stickiness versus the medium or heavy that has very heavy stickiness. For this project, I think we just need the OG clay bar. So I'm gonna put these 2 aside. Basically, inside the package, you're going to see a little bit of sticky clay. We don't need the whole thing, so you basically wanna take this out and remove the film here, and just take a little chunk off of this. Doesn't need to be a lot. You tear off a small piece. That's actually even too big, hang on. So you just tear off a small piece. You can put the rest back inside the case here for later. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna put this down on the ground. What we're gonna do is grab this ball and we're just gonna roll it in our hands. Warm it up a bit, you know? It's been out in the cold for a while. Smash it with your palms, make it into a nice flat disc, and just kind of press on it with your thumbs a little bit till it flattens out a little bit. You kind of want a flat disc about, I don't know, maybe 3 fingers wide usually, just about here, right? Because that's where you're gonna do all your work. Now I know what you're thinking. Sticky item, not sticky item, this is gonna mess up your paint. You would be correct if you didn't use clay luber. Now this is the key to making all of this work. You need a slippery, slidey surface in order to get this to pull contaminants out of the paint but not scratch it. So what we're gonna do is take this bottle, we're going to spray a little bit on here, lube it up, and then we are going to be very generous on the surface of this paint. I'm talking about, like, you think you're spraying enough, just keep spraying more. So what we're gonna do is just spray a bunch of this, and we're gonna work in one small area at a time. I'm just gonna pick this little panel for now. So we're gonna spray the clay, spray the surface. You're gonna lightly place it on there. You're not gonna put any pressure. You're just gonna go back and forth like this, nice and light. And I'm feeling a little bit of resistance, right? So you can spray a lot more of this luber on here to make sure you don't really feel that much. You're gonna feel some resistance because that is the contamination coming out of the clay. Now, as we're doing this, you're gonna continuously spray the luber and just go back and forth. And you can already see all these little particles here are coming up. They're coming out of the paint. They're coming into the clay bar. And basically, we are cleaning up the pores of the paint. And as we go back and forth like this, it's going to just clean up all of this area here. Now, if you're finding that it's not pulling this up, you might have really heavily embedded contamination and you might want to go up on a clay bar. But as you can see, the OG is doing a good job. It just takes a little bit of extra back and forth work to get all that stuff picked up off of the paint. Now, that's it. This is how you clay. You can do this on paint, you can do this on headlights, you can do this on glass. This works on almost every part of the car that is a smooth, glossy surface. And you're removing all of this embedded contamination. Now, how do you know when to stop? Basically, when you don't hear that rough sound anymore, it's smooth. All I hear is sirens, which means I gotta go. All I hear is the smooth sound of glass at this point, even though this isn't glass. All I hear is nothing. This is just smooth sailing right here. Until I get to one of these places right here. It's a little rough. Over here, smooth. That's how you know you're done on this section. Now, once you've done a little bit of a section, you can take this clay bar, which, by the way, it's covered in all that filth. Look at this clean side that hasn't been touched versus this side, which is just absolutely, these are all the particles that have come off. Now, you don't want to rub this on your paint, so what you're going to do is you're actually going to fold it on top of itself, kind of blend it back in, and then repurpose this clay bar. And now it's a fresh side on both sides, so we can continue the clay bar process. At some point, you want to grab your towel and just wipe off what you've done, right? And look at that. We're revealing this insanely shiny paint now. All the contamination is gone from this section, and it looks beautiful. You can even see right now just a little bit of this gross contamination on this side, which still, by the way, I'm not even going to touch that, is going to make sound versus this section, which is smooth as glass now. This is how you want your paint to feel. This is how you want your paint to look. And that's it. That's how you clay. If you stick around, I have a secret on how to protect all of the work that we just did. So you're going to want to watch that section next. Look at all this embedded gunk that's coming out of here. Look at all this brown, orangey looking stuff that's just getting pulled out of the paint. It's crazy. This is all sitting there, dulling your look of your paint, ruining it, contributing to things like oxidation. you gotta get this stuff out of your paint. I would recommend claying, I mean, at least once a year on your car. You could probably get a, you know, if you wanna go crazy, you could do once every 6 months, but that's excessive. If you're taking care of it and you're keeping track of all this stuff and you're protecting it, like we'll show you later, you really don't need to do this more than once every 1 year or 2 years if you're protecting and maintaining this. But if you've never done this before in your car and it's a couple years old, you're gonna be shocked at how dirty and filthy it actually is. And all these filthy little paint particles that are killing the look of your ride will come off into this clay. Ooh, it's already time for me to flip this over into a new section because it is just covered in gunk compared to what it's supposed to look like, the clean side. So, again, you really want to work in linear motions just to prevent any scratches and swirls. You don't want to go in swirly marks, just up and down or left to right, never together. Always one direction, back and forth. And you just keep going. You just keep swimming. Now, when we get to this section with this sap that's on here, we're gonna have a little bit of difficulty. This clay bar will pull it out. I'm gonna go right over on the top of it. The problem is, as we stated before, this sap has already done its damage. It's been sitting on here for months. And so it's already eaten through the clear coat. It's already eaten through the paint. We're gonna get the sap portion off of it so it's smooth again. However, you're gonna be left with little marks, unfortunately, that will not come out. So that is why it is so important to take care of this before you reach this point. You do not want to be in a sap situation like this. Very bad, very bad. I'll show you guys a trick on how to get this off even quicker by using something different than a clay bar and something that you might not really think that you could use to get this stuff off, in addition to some of the paint transfer that's on here. Oh yeah, look at all that. Again, no pressure at all, just letting the weight of the clay bar do all the work, gliding back and forth. And then we're gonna grab our towels and just wipe this off here. And look at that, wow. Revealing all of this shine. And unfortunately, revealing a lot of the scratches and swirls that were already on here. The one good thing about this is it shows you where you need to polish on the next step. So it may look, your paint may look worse sometimes after doing this because all of a sudden now you can see all the damage that was underneath all this dirt and grime, layer. But the good news is after this step, we can fix all that too. Wow, look at that shine. That's how easy it is to do clay bar process on your paint. It is mirrored now. This looks like night and day. Do you disagree or do you agree? Drop it in the comments below. But you know what? You stuck around, and I promised that if you stuck around, he didn't like that. You know what? You stuck around, and I did promise that if you stick around, I would show you a secret technique, and that secret is butter wet wax. Now, what the heck am I gonna use this for? Paint transfer. Huh? You see this right here? We washed this with citrus washing gloss. We dried it, and there's still marks over here. Even after drying, even after all of the stuff we did. Guess what? Butter wet wax will actually take this off because it has a mild abrasive in there, which shines the paint. So all you're gonna do is grab your little microfiber applicator here. You're gonna take your butter wet wax and you're gonna put just a couple drops onto the applicator there. All right? We're gonna close this bottle, pop that down here, and then I'm going to take this and dab it out onto the marks here, okay? Now this might take a little bit more elbow grease than you're used to giving with a wax. Most times with a wax, we just coat it back and forth and we're done, right? We work that in. You're gonna actually want to physically work this in. So I want you to take a good look at what this looks like before, I'm not going to cut the camera. All I'm going to do is start rubbing up and down, and watch how quickly this disappears. Almost instantaneously. Look at that, gone, absolutely gone. That's gonna work over here as well a little bit. However, once you actually chip the paint, like in this section here, it's too far gone. You can't fix that. So all I'm gonna do is continue to rub this in and get the edges here that also we missed here. And you're just gonna put a little extra elbow grease than you're used to. Grab your microfiber towel and just buff that off to a beautiful shine. And all that paint transfer is gone, guys, it's gone. So easy. Look at that. This will come off as well. So I'm gonna do this one right now for you, and you're gonna see how quickly this just comes off. I don't even need to put extra on the applicator. I'm literally just gonna rub that right off. Look at that. Comes right off. The little dents you can't fix, unfortunately, so stop driving your car into stuff, all right? But if you accidentally do, you can still at least take care of the mark itself. You just have to give it a little bit of elbow grease, and it should come off. And if it doesn't come off up and down, you can go left to right. And that's probably the best we're gonna get with this mark, because this was a little bit deeper. You can feel it with your finger. If you feel it stick, it means you scratched through the clear coat. And unfortunately, that's what's happening right here, so. But it still looks way better than it did before. And that is the goal here, so. Nice. That's all there is to it, guys. Oh wait, is it? No, it's not. That sap that we saw, same technique applies. I'm actually gonna drop a dollop right on top of that sap, and I'm gonna take the applicator and dab that in and work that side to side. The sap might take a little bit more effort than the other paint transfer marks, but this should also remove some of the sap. Now, if this doesn't, the sap is way too embedded, then we move on to a polisher, and you will be able to get this sap off with the polisher. However, like I said before, that mark is permanent if you let it sit there for too long. And unfortunately, the owner of this car did leave it for too long before taking care of it. So we can get the sap portion off, but as you can see by this little test spot here, we got the sap off, but it already ruined the paint there. So same thing here. So you can get that off, but unfortunately the mark will be there. So anyway, those are the hot tips on how to clay. If you have any questions, drop them down in the chat below. We'll be happy to answer them. And I'm sure you're probably wondering how to polish, right? Well, in that case, you should probably watch the next video, which is how to polish. See you on that one.